Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe show. And hi, it's been a while. I was just saying to Jack before we started recording that I don't think I've been on the channel since we were previewing West Ham. So there's been 4 Fulham games since then. Obviously, West Ham, Newcastle at home, the Preston penalty shootout, and then the win over Forest of the weekend. So big thank you to Jack and also to Stroudley for stepping in as ever in my absence. Jack, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Fulham are 6th in the Premier League, and well, if it weren't for a Joshua Zirkzee goal, my hot take would have completely come in.
Yeah.
So feeling pretty good about Fulham right now, Joe. Obviously, a huge win on Saturday.
Big win. Yeah. A game that I was going into, obviously didn't preview it with you last week, but if you'd have asked me for a score prediction, I'd have said 1-1 all day long, with the reason being that Forest, Forest have had a good start to the season until this point, unbeaten. But both games at home, one all draws against Bournemouth and then against Wolves, both of which probably could have gone either way, as you would expect from that sort of scoreline. Not scoring a heap of goals, but obviously went to Anfield and put in a great defensive performance. And then obviously got a very credible draw at Brighton as well. So it was one of these games that I was going into thinking, I don't really know what to make of them without Gibbs White, because obviously in all these great performances, he's been there, an integral part of the team. I think he swung in the corner that won them the game against Southampton in the second game of the season. So very important player. And we were thinking, who's going to replace him? And they basically said, no one's going to replace him. We're going to change the system entirely, go 2 up front with Taiwo Awoniyi partnering Chris Wood, who we always thought would start. But really interesting. And for the first half, Jack, I've got to say, I thought it really worked in terms of what they did. I mean, maybe not if their goal was to win the game, but certainly if their goal was to keep the unbeaten run going and nullify Fulham, it was working perfectly. There wasn't much space. They packed out the midfield with essentially 4 central midfielders.
Yeah.
There was no room. They caused us a couple of issues, but I was never too concerned. There was that Chris Wood sort of header that ended up crossing the line, but he was offside. So again, that was okay. But that first half was a bit of a non-event, wasn't it?
Oh, it was dreadful.
Yeah.
Like genuinely such a bad first half. I would say that the 2 up top for Forest was surprising but disruptive. It made for quite a disruptive sort of chaotic first half where like Fulham couldn't really get. In fact, throughout the whole 90 minutes. No, actually, hold on. First half, Fulham couldn't really play through Forest at all. There was one chance with Jimenez. Every time we got the ball in those sort of left-hand side areas with Iwobi and Smith Rowe and Robinson, and with Jimenez sort of peeling away to try and receive the ball, we couldn't get through. Lots of block shots, lots of blocked efforts, and from a Forest point of view, in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. Hindsight, I would have, if I was a Forest fan, gone with the 4-2-3-1 and just played Elanga and Hudson-Odoi, but they went with 2 up top, and yeah, obviously Wood caused a bit of chaos at one point, but it was offside. Awoniyi was okay, but I just felt as if maybe the approach was to be a little bit more, how can we stop Fulham rather than how can we hurt Fulham? Yeah. And they did that very well in terms of stopping us because, the goal didn't come from open play. The goal came from a penalty, quite a sort of innocuous challenge, but obviously a bad tackle. But at the time, it was like, Pereira's gone down. Oh, that's just he's just gone down. Nothing's really happened there. But what I thought from the game was that Fulham, once they did take the lead, defended brilliantly, like really well, albeit they didn't have a load of chances. Hudson-Odoi over the bar, Sousa on target, their only shot on target the whole game. And it just keeps happening now. We're playing 3 teams in West Ham, Newcastle and Forest, where we're just not conceding a load of chances, which is, by the way, very unlike us. We actually do concede quite a lot of chances. And do you know what is a huge difference? And it's obviously obvious. It's Anderson and Bassi.
Yeah.
They're just unbelievable. They're just unbelievable. And of course, Sasha Lukic being that protector in front of the back 4. It's really interesting because once we lost Paulinho, we were panicking so much about this midfield. But actually, so far, touch wood, we've been very, 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 very good. We've been very good. We've been really good in that sort of area, stopping the opposition from creating chances, getting shots away, making last-ditch challenge, that last-ditch header from Robinson across the box to get the ball away when a dangerous ball comes into the box. Anderson, Tete, one-on-one defending. Like these very, very, very impressive individual performances from our defenders. The only concern is like there was times in the second half where we were like strolling forward with the ball, had so much time, but we were almost like, are we asked to even score again? Are we trying to even score again? It would be a Wobie, it would be Nelson. They'd be like sort of ball rolling and just sort of looking for their options. Crosses would come into the box. No one would be in the box. It was quite a weird game against Forest.
Yeah.
However, we got the job done. And, that is what Bob the Builder sort of built his mantra on, and we just did that.
Yeah, completely. A rubbish game, and sort of few people saying, if you're the away team, it's exactly what you want. Just a dull encounter with limited chances, a lack of quality, but you just get the job done, as our friend Bob did. And
on many occasions.
On several occasions, yeah, he was, a repeat offender for getting the job done. I think that Dan Cook put a really good tweet out yesterday at the time of recording, basically saying that well, firstly, the Xerxes goal that you mentioned earlier, but also the Danny Ings one, they've sort of shown Silva that both of those goals came when we were chasing. In the case of the United game, we were chasing a winner. In the case of the West Ham game, we were basically chasing a second goal. And he's shown us that basically we need to stick to one or the other. We didn't seem to be sure whether we wanted to go all-out attack or whether we wanted to sit and protect what we have. And I think that in the last two games, Newcastle as well, obviously I didn't speak about, brought on Diop with about 5 minutes to 10 minutes left if you include added time in the place of Smith Rowe, change the formation and just sit there. And Harrison Reed's also had two great performances in these last two games, which, we were sort of saying, his quality hasn't looked the same level this season, but it's been great. And I've loved to see that. I've loved to see that we've sort of doubled down. I remember a case last season at Anfield when Tosin was ready to come on just before Trent scored to make it 4-3. And, if we'd made that move slightly earlier, you never know, they might not even have equalised because an extra man in the box, there's someone there to pick up that second ball. So I've loved the way that we've been holding out these games. There's a clip going around of Anderson winning a foul. And I remember my head being so lukewarm when we played Palace last season, when Anderson was using every trick in the book to sort of take the sting out of the game. And, you're in the crowd like the Forest fans were fuming about it. But when it's for your team, it's a professional display. It's great. I'm in no doubt that there's going to be an occasion this season when we're 1-0 down or 1 goal down in the dying embers of the game and a defender wins a foul. Tete's great at it, for example. And it's going to make my head really hot. But you know what? When it's for your team, it's great. And we're becoming better at it. And we had to be after that West Ham game because that was the absolute royal fuck up of all fuck ups in terms of how to see out a game. We did it terribly. And I loved that in the last two games, not just this one, but Newcastle as well, where effectively I think we did it for the entire second half, after Harvey Barnes got one back. We just sort of said, you know what, we're going to dominate the ball, but we're not going to give you any big chances other than that one from Cher, which we'll ignore.
The one where Leno basically just have it.
The one where he passed to Smith Rowe for literally no reason at all, by the way. That actually really annoyed me, but we survived through it. We could speak about VAR controversy, but I don't think there is any, to be completely honest.
It just isn't.
I think it was a penalty. I think the other two weren't. And I think the biggest penalty shout of all of them was the one on Kenny Tete.
Pushed him.
Simple as that. So if we're not getting that one, they certainly shouldn't be getting the one from Anderson in the first half, which wasn't a foul. But in particular, that one that seemed to be getting a lot of uproar was Bassi on Alanga just after we'd gone 1-0 up.
Hardly touched him whatsoever.
That's the one. The one where he went down like he'd been sniped by Wesley Snipes. It was ridiculous. I was absolutely livid. When obviously, watching on a very, very legal stream from not the city of Nottingham. And I was, they said that it's gone to VAR. And I thought, if it's gone to VAR, after they'd given our one, I have to admit, I was a bit nervous because I thought, the contact wasn't huge in both. It was more on the one on Murillo on Pereira because it was basically down his Achilles. But I was a bit nervy
And there's
when they told
intent
him
to
to go
play
to
the
VAR.
ball.
Yes, yeah, and
Huge intent to play the ball.
like Murillo basically just raked down the back of him
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah. It was a game that I'm just glad is over.
Yeah,
Not glad all over, just glad it's over. And look, Forest, that's 2 teams now we've played who have been unbeaten, and we've just beaten them. We've ended their
yeah,
run. We've pissed off their fans,
yeah,
and we go to a Manchester City team now
yeah,
who, I was saying this on my own channel yesterday on Patreon that like we're in a position now where like even if we lose, and hopefully we don't lose in horrible fashion, I don't think Man City are listening on the best form right now, which is great. They've got a Bratislava tomorrow night, or
yeah,
tonight actually, at the time of recording.
yeah,
If we lose this, we have a very nice comfort blanket of points tally. And no one, if Fulham loses 2-0, no one's going to bat an eyelid. It's going to
no,
be like, oh, well, Man City are Man City, aren't they? It's going to be obviously difficult. It's going to be an uncomfortable watch. Defensively, we're going to be up against it yet again. But if we were to maybe, see out the first 45 and get to 0-0, and you've got Adama and you've got players on like Nelson who can come off the bench and hurt teams, I feel fairly confident that Fulham won't be absolutely dismantled this weekend
yeah,
by a City team who are just boring me to death.
yeah. I mean, this is the fixture. If I was to look at the fixture lists when they come out, it's probably the one that I look forward to the least on
Yeah.
opening first view, just because it's the one where you feel you have the least hope out of any.
Yeah.
But it's as good a time to play Man City as we could have.
Yeah.
No Rodri, De Bruyne is still a doubt. They've had a couple of ropey results in the league by their standards, not looking their absolute free-flowing best. Just one of those where you think, could it be our day? I don't think it will be. I want to see us in a competitive game with them because that's something that doesn't happen too often. We've had a few over recent years where we've had a good half and we haven't been able to follow it up. And I'm hoping that we can change that.
So in the last 3 times we've been to the Etihad, we have scored on our last 3 visits. So the 5-1 last season, the 2-1 defeat the season before, and Fabio Carvalho scoring after about 4 minutes in the FA Cup, and Fulham still end up losing 4-1, I think. So look, there is a chance, and that's obviously every game we've played under Silva at the Etihad as well. I'm not really fearing this because we, like I said, it's not like we've been on a horrendous run of form and it's like, God, they could just pound us complete misery here. I think if we get men behind the ball and we're compact and we have someone like Anderson who can disrupt Haaland and piss him off a little bit, and because actually what we've seen from Man City in the last couple of weeks, especially against Arsenal, is they can be wound up. And I know Arsenal are on a different level to us and they're the main competitors, hence there was a bit of needle there. But even if we were to frustrate them, Man City fans have this God-given right thinking that they should win every game of football by 5-0, and it should all be very fine and sort of easy. And their fans, I think I just think Manchester City as a club and what they've done over the last 4 years, albeit being very good, but obviously what's going on in the courts right now. Is it fun? No. Is it entertaining? Not really.
No.
Not really.
No. I mean, I enjoyed the Man City Arsenal game for the first time in a while because the 2 last season were for a neutral. I mean, if you're an Arsenal fan, they're great because they won at home, they drew away, they conceded none to Man City, which is let's face it, a pretty decent achievement. Not many teams manage to do that ever. Like with the way they currently are, with De Bruyne and with Haaland, etc. I think that the thing about Man City this season is they don't look to be their free-flowing best yet, as I said, but also in their 3 home league games, they have conceded in all of them. In 2 of them, they've conceded the opening goal. So obviously that was Ipswich, who they turned it around very quickly against. Like let's make no mistake about that. But when it comes to the Brentford game, early doors, 1-0 down, and Brentford had chances to make it 2 before Haaland scored a brace. There's been a few occasions where you just think, you know what, could a better team with a little bit more quality at the back actually close them out? And Arsenal nearly did it. So I don't know if we're that team, but we've got the joint second best defensive record in the league so far this season, with 5 goals conceded. We haven't conceded more than 1 in a game so far this season. Let's face it, this is the most likely game for that to take place. But I'm going into this thinking that we will probably be defeated, but in a competitive manner. And in terms of a score prediction, Jack, I can see this being a 2-1 City sort of game. I can see us being defiant in defeat. And this is not a defeat that would have my head super hot. It's one that would have me frustrated and thinking, another game where we've run them quite close with no reward. But, one of those games, and how I think we'll line up, Jack, is, I can't see us changing our defensive structure in terms of the back four, but you've got players like Sander Berge who are ready to come in. And we saw in that second half, we saw against Newcastle as well, coming in a little bit earlier in proceedings. So I would imagine that he will start. But I'm very interested to see what we do with the front line. Will we start with players like Nelson, who are maybe slightly more of a threat on the counter-attack from the off than players such as Iwobi? I mean, I imagine that Adama Traore will continue to start. I imagine that Jimenez will keep his place. Yeah. But it's that left-hand side that I'm very interested in, and that third midfielder, because you imagine if everyone's fit and fine and there's no issues, that Lukic and Smith Rowe would certainly keep their places. What do you think?
I think one of Pereira and Smith Rowe should maybe come out for Sander Berge. And we play a little bit more defensively structured. We then see how that works as a concept. Backs will be against the wall, of course. And what I'm really looking forward to in this game is when we do have those opportunities, I can foresee a situation where it's Anderson who's our outball. As in, Anderson's is the outball, playing that ball over the top, and you've got Adama, and you've got either Nelson or Iwobi, and suddenly,
absolutely,
you're basically cutting out all the Man City players, or not all of them, but a lot of them sort of midfield and front line, and then we just play on that break. And of course, what was the blueprint? What game was it where we went to a team like that and did exactly that and came away with victory? Liverpool away, when it was Anderson to Lookman. If it's Anderson to Iwobi or Anderson to Nelson or Anderson to Traore, that's where I think we can get a lot of joy. You just sort of keep Jimenez in that sort of pocket where, okay, if the ball goes over the top, you then start making your running towards the box. There's a pullback option. Don't commit too many men forward, but just see what you can do. And then obviously when in Man City in transition, when they get the ball, they can very, very quickly switch it. And they've got really dangerous players. Doku on one side, Savini on the other, could be Grealish. I mean, it really could be quite a difficult afternoon, obviously, but that's where Fulham can get joy. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And the quality of, as long as City will press us high, as long as we can beat that press or at least get some time on the ball to spread those sort of balls out wide. I don't want to see a situation where, and I think we probably will because it's the way we play, it's going to be like Bassi fizzing passes into Robinson, and then he's under pressure because we get pressed, and then suddenly we lose the ball out the pitch, or Robinson plays the ball and it goes straight out for a throw in. It's just like, you know what I mean? It could be very messy, but having Anderson with the potential to play those balls over the top, and even if they don't go necessarily anywhere, at least they relieve a little bit of pressure. Joe.
I mean, I feel more confident, even though Diop's been great, even in his sub appearances, going to City with Anderson than Diop, just because we can play our way out of danger slightly easier. We have an outball, like you say, of the ball over the top, which is something that Man City need to think about. And it's just one of those where we actually have a bit of a, not a secret weapon, but a weapon, because when we played them previously, we haven't had one. We can sort of huff and puff as much as we like, but we don't have anyone that can actually hurt them when it comes to one of our chances. So I think that it's a promising prospect that we can hopefully go and give them a game, as other teams that I think are lower in quality than us have done this season. And I would hope that players like Smith Rowe and Nelson, whoever, Jimenez in great form, we haven't really mentioned, that's 4 goals in all comps for the season for him now. 2 penalties, yes, but we didn't used to score penalties. I'm just really, really excited at the prospect of going there. And key thing, this could age like milk, but key thing, don't concede early. Just do not concede early against Man City. And that goes the case for any team playing against them. But oh my goodness, they are so hard to chase a game against, in my opinion. We saw that when we went there and we equalised, even though they had 10 men, even that was just a tough experience to hang on, and we nearly did hang on. The fact that you're having to hang on with a player extra is bonkers to me, but that's ultimately the quality that they have.
Playing City with 10 men is like playing any other team with 11. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, I'll say Fulham are going to get a point. I think we're going to draw.
Would be an absolutely fantastic result.
I think
this means more than a win in most games.
Yeah, it would be. I think there's something quite special going on at Fulham right now, and defensively we're looking much more solid, and even coming against one of the best attacking teams in the world. I'm not that scared. I'm not that scared. And then just ask me again with 2 minutes to go until kickoff. How are you feeling, Joe? I know we need to wrap up now. Just final question: Fulham are 6th. What's the ambition for this season?
I think the ambition has got to be from the top half in terms of let's make an improvement on last season. Top half finish is a great finish, but you know what? Why can't we dare to dream a little, Jack, while we're in a position like this and think, you know what? A surprise team always sneaks into European conversation, and we have had a reasonably easy, on paper, opening run of fixtures, but you can only play what's in front of you. And we have beaten the teams that we should be beating. We could have got even more points than we did. We could have got a point at Old Trafford. We could have got a win against West Ham. We weren't great against Ipswich. We still got a point. And Villa the other day showed that, that's what can happen to you there. That they're a tough team to beat. The only teams that beat them so far are City and Liverpool. So it's one of these things where let's dare to dream a little. And I would absolutely love to be in a conversation where we're at least in the conversation for Europe, whether that's could we sneak into a Conference League place in the second half of the season, and then in January we can hopefully make a big name signing to try and get us over the line. That would be fantastic. But we've got a tougher couple of games coming up before an easier run on paper, again towards the end of October and throughout to the middle of November, I think it is. So let's see what we can do, but dare to dream.
Obviously, it's the international break coming up after Manchester City, which of course is frustrating. But we will be back next week with a review of Man City, and that will be on the podcast feed. How exciting. So do listen out for that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Joe, thanks so much for being here.
Great to be back. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, everyone, for watching. If you're going to City, make a load of noise. We checked the ticket sales just before this, and it looks like the bottom tier is sold out. Looks like the second tier is nearly sold out, and I don't think we have the third, which is fine because it's the worst tier of all. I've sat in the second, I've sat in the bottom, and I have to say the bottom is best, but don't let that stop you getting those last tickets available, and let's make a loads of noise for the guys. It seems like ticket sales really picked up after that Forest win because everyone's sort of thinking, well, if not now, then when? Can we put in a great performance against Man City and try to get a positive result?
Yeah, it's interesting because people have been like, oh, Man City are usually people are like, oh, I'm not going to bother. We might as well lose. But I've had a lot of people be like, since Saturday, do you want to go to City? And I'm like, well, I'm already going. But he's like, oh yeah, do you want to get the train together? Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great fun. Look, whatever happens. If we win, I'm sure we'll have a party. If we lose, it's not really surprising. If it's a draw, it's a huge bonus.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Fulham are 6th in the Premier League. Now, how long will that last for? Let's hope over the international break we could be on level on points with Man City. That would be something.
Results go away, and I think it involves us winning 3-0, which is a bit dodgy, but we could
go above
be
them.
top. Just saying.
Top of the league?
You could go top.
If Fulham are top of the league in the international break,
yeah,
we gotta do a
sorry. We can't be top. We can be second. I forgot the Liverpool one. I just checked now because I was like, wait, is that too good to be true? I
can't
think
take my eyes off
all right,
you. Yeah. Well, look, whatever happens, I need to renew a passport. Seriously, it expires in 2025. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for being here. And well, come on, Fulham.